I am so excited to talk to you today. All the things I've just loved working with you so far. You are an amazing healer, spiritual teacher, third generation spiritual healer, all these beautiful, wonderful things. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy and honored to be here.
Absolutely. Gosh. Okay. I'm really looking forward to picking your brain here because this is our moment to do that.
Mhm.
So I would love to dive into kind of what I know. I've read a lot of your articles that you have out there. You've been featured in a lot of really beautiful magazines and features. I would love to know about how you made this decision from being an actor in LA to like really knowing that this was your path outside of even just like your family. Because I know you had a lot of like influence growing up, but like how did you know that this path was for you? Because not everyone might choose that if even if they grew up.
Yeah. A lot of my life and a lot of where I am now is the result of living in chronic pain for a really long time due to a birth abnormality. I was born with a dislocated left hip and had two operations on it when I was very young and ended up having a total hip replacement when I was 32, just a couple years ago. And it's been great ever since then. But as I was pursuing this life, this dream that I'd worked so hard for, that I really felt was my mission, was my way of bringing light into the world, of being a performer. At the same time, I was also working in bars and restaurants and catering, and I was in so much physical pain that I knew it was unsustainable for me. And it was the dream I had from when I was very young was being dismantled. This idea that I could support myself just being an actor, right? All actors, no matter, unless you're an A-list, you have other forms of work. And I didn't know what else I could do that would allow me to take care of my body in the way that I needed it to. Because also at the time, I didn't have health insurance. I hadn't even thought about getting a hip replacement. And so it got to a breaking point where I realized the acting work I was doing was not satisfying me. It wasn't making me feel empowered. It wasn't inspiring me. And at the same time, the other ways I was supporting myself also was creating such debilitating pain in my body that I knew I had to just upend everything. And I knew that there had to be another way. And so, as I was willing to totally surrender and burn down everything I thought I had known, once I express that willingness to the universe, after a little bit of time this awareness crept back in, and this love and this passion that I've had for spirituality and spiritual teachings and spiritual healing for so long came back into my life, and I felt very called to pursue this in a very new way for myself.
Beautiful. Did you jump into any kind of particular trainings right away, or did you jump into more just finding your own flow, or how did that look like?
I had already done my first two levels of Reiki at that point. And so I did commit myself to going through a Reiki master training and also a specific training for animal Reiki, because at the time I really thought that's what I wanted to do. And actually, this other modalities and understandings from my lineage came later. So I actually started my business doing energy healing for animals and then people. And then when I realized these other things were still online, I then was called to really focus more on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're hinting at a lot here. Now I really want to dive deep into that. What was your lineage stuff and your realizations for that? Because that's such a speaks to these light worker codes that we hang on to lifetime over lifetime, and not just from ourselves in our lives, but like from our ancestors. So I'd really love to hear your perspective on
It was this modality that my mother and grandmother did that was called spiritual response therapy, that was is a form of past life healing that uses charts and a pendulum to identify and clear past life trauma and the subconscious beliefs that are remaining as a result of that. And part of that training teaches you how to communicate with spirit, high self, through your eye blinks. And so that was something I had been doing since I was a teenager. And I noticed that as I was doing Reiki for people, my eyes were blinking furiously. So I knew that there was what I came to understand is called Akashic healing happening, but I didn't really know what that meant. And then as in 2020 when everything moved online and I knew I was being called to shift with it. I wanted to see what else I could do. And I was really feeling a pull to devote more time and energy to the past life healing and seeing what I could do there and combining working with the energy centers of the body along with Akashic healing in a new way. And that in of itself also brought my own psychic abilities far more online. And it was interesting to pursue that with my background as a performer. I'm a storyteller, and that's really what I love. And as I started working more in the Akashic records, I was always saying to my clients, I never know what's going to come up. I can't ever predict what's going to come up, but it's always a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end and a message. And so that ended up becoming more of the focal point of my work.
Wow. That is such an incredible testament to if you want to be able to start this healing path, you don't have to have all the answers right away. You don't have to have a full plan, like a 3D business plan. Just go with like your intuition and your inklings and look at what developed for you. I think that's
Yeah.
incredibly inspiring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's what I tell to my clients too, who are also in this space. So many light workers who are called to this, they feel like they have to get all the certifications. They feel like they have to do all the trainings.
Yeah.
And that's, and I get it because we are so curious about so much, but you don't, and a lot of that also comes from a feeling of needing to prove ourselves, right? Wanting to be really prepared. But so much of this work is incredibly intuitive and channeled. And those are all modalities and techniques that will serve you personally, probably even more than in your work. But it start with the lowest hanging fruit, whatever is really resonant in your soul, just start because it's going to evolve because we evolve. And if we allow ourselves to evolve, then our business models will as well. We'll always continue to learn more and then just allow that flow, that organic growth to happen for us. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think it really points to the fact that it's a very 3D model, guilty as charged. Like when I was through my 20s, I wanted to learn every modality I could find because I felt like I had something to prove in a professional way, in a 3D way. But now, as I've just let all of that go and really the last 6, 7 years just really followed my own like flow on that, like you do find what resonates with your soul even more. But it's like it changes it because you don't have anything to prove to anyone. You just are there of service and you're there to help other people. And no piece of paper on your wall can like give anybody any more assurance than you actually providing a beautiful service with them.
Yeah. And eventually you realize that people are coming to you because of you, even more than what you know or what you're trained in. They're coming because of the frequency of your unique essence. And
Mm.
that's what calls people in.
I wish I would have heard that when I was 22 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Don't
I
we
think
all?
yeah, I think that's a part of the healer's path too, is like self-doubt and being empowered and really trusting your gifts.
Mm.
What would you say to anyone who would want to develop just their gifts, not even necessarily in a healing way, but like maybe they're getting inklings that they have psychic abilities, mediumship, like gosh, I can think of so many things to ask about that. But what would you say to somebody who, yeah, is afraid to take that leap into the 3D secular professional world into this more light
Mm. Mm.
spiritual world?
I would say that you can't rush it. Just like you cannot rush a pregnancy, you can't rush the time it takes for leaves to change color or fall off a tree. And it feels much better in our bodies and our nervous system as we let things again unfold. And so it means taking time to both sit with spirit, the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, making sure you're really giving yourself time to be in stillness, to have a meditation practice, whatever that looks like to you, and also to be learning about business. And when you open that door, there's a lot of different things to learn about business, different platforms to use. What do I want to offer? What about marketing? What about branding? And it's very easy to get overwhelmed. So you really have to just give yourself clear goals in order. Okay, this month I'm going to just start to slowly learn about this. And this month I'm going to just start to slowly learn about this. I'm going to see what other people are doing, the people I follow. Why do I like them? What are they offering? And you're really learning to bring it all together And you'll know when it's time to take action, to just start putting yourself out there, offering some sessions for, or events for donation based, for reviews, right? And it will grow from there. But the underlying thing is knowing that when you feel blocks in your business, it's blocks coming from within you.
Mm.
And that's really the path of the spiritual entrepreneur. And a lot of us will get tied up in the 3D stuff. I don't know how to have a booking site. I don't know how to write newsletters. I'm so, frustrated trying to figure out taxes. But learning how to do that and telling yourself you can learn how to do that's part of your spiritual journey. That's part of the up leveling. And for us spiritually minded entrepreneurs, learning how to bring the 3D and the 5D together is the journey. And if your intention is there, if we continue to focus on solutions, Spirit will always show you the way and give you the help that you need, because that's just how energy works.
Amen. Beautiful.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
podcast is done. That's so amazing. And I just had a podcast interview on Friday with his name is Hale Schneider. He'll be have launched right before this episode. So for anyone listening, he is a marketing person specifically for spiritual entrepreneurs. So we got really deep into what the difference is, how you can use similar like 3D processes to bring into your marketing, but then how it's much more different. We went really in depth about that principle that our business is almost a reflection of us and our blockages and our growth. It is still like an entity on its own that we need to nurture, but it's such a reflection. I think that was a really cool conversation. And you're touching on that because like you have experienced that not just like a intellectual like prop. I want to edit that part. Not just a objective like observer, like you've experienced that. I know a lot of people too. Now you have a community that people, if they were curious, they could tap into learning more about their intuition. Tell us more a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm. Creating community has always been a really important part of my work. As I started doing one-on-one sessions, and I began to see that just working with me in all of these different dimensions was allowing the psychic abilities of my clients to open up very naturally. I was not expecting that, but it makes sense because being psychic, being intuitive is our natural state of being. So it stands to reason that as we are clearing away energetic blocks, past life trauma, we're engaging in deep mindset work, we become more in tune and comfortable with the subtle energies around us. And I realized that my clients had no one else to talk to besides me about it. And so very quickly, I was trying to imagine, how can I create opportunities for people to come together? There's been a lot of different iterations of that. Right now, we have the Cosmic Joy Community, which is a free online community, people all over the world, many who I've done sessions with, some other people who have just found me online and have felt isolated in their spiritual path. And so in this space, we are very honestly sharing our experiences. I'm sharing my downloads, I'm sharing oracle card readings, and of course, I share about upcoming events that I have so people can get to know first. They're the first people to know when things are launching. And it's really created such a spectacular network of light workers all over the world. And so many people in my sphere express how not alone they feel anymore in this journey. And it just means so much to me because we know at this very exciting time on this planet, that community and support is the number one thing that we all need to grow and survive. That is my big online space. I also have my monthly Cosmic Joy Club, which is a 4-week program with very small, intimate Zoom groups where we engage in spiritual healing and spiritual coaching. And that too has created friendships that I've watched develop so beautifully, again, all over the globe, and watching people just keep in touch with each other and connect with each other outside of the spaces that I've created. And it just warms my little heart so much. I'm so grateful for all of the really incredible beings who have been attracted to that space. It's just magical.
Yeah. and I want to say warms your big heart because you're the one of the
Warms.
most heart-centered entrepreneurs that I've met in a long time. Like there's something to be said about everything that you're doing and offering and just your state of being. Yeah, I just want to reflect that back to you.
Thank you. That I received that with gratitude. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
I would love to ask you about one of the most exciting things that I've heard about with what your work is, and we get to possibly experience it up here in Mount Shasta, which we'll get to in a moment. But your work with unicorn healing, I'd never heard of that, and would love to hear more about what that process is, like how you came up with that. Like unicorns are everything. My little girl inside, yes.
And that's exactly what unicorn do. They ignite our inner child and they get us excited for limitless possibilities and joy and the color that is around us all the time. It was a complete surprise to me that as I embarked on my entrepreneurial journey and was dedicating myself to learning as much as possible. I'll say the first 2 years of opening my business, I basically put myself in grad school to learn as much as I could about everything. And as I was opening up my own channeling abilities and identifying, okay, who am I talking to? I want to know who I'm talking to. For me, just thinking about my inner being or my spirit guides, my spirit team, it wasn't enough for me. I really want to know. And that's not the path for everyone, and that's totally fine. And so one of the branches that revealed itself was the realm of the elemental beings. And these are beings like fairies, dragon, merfolk. And traditionally, elemental beings are all connected with an element. Fairies are air elementals, dragons are fire elementals, and there's many within all of those realms. So unicorn aren't technically connected to an element, but they're their own thing. I don't really know how else to classify them, so I just put them in here. And we know modern science tells us that there is so much more beyond what the human eye can see and what the human ear can hear that is in this existence. And as we are listening and tuning into our intuition, we are responding to energy that is around us. So if we know that our human senses aren't picking up on everything, we know there's more out there that cannot be disputed. That cannot be disputed. And so unicorn have come to me, and I'm certainly not the only person who works with unicorn energy. Diana Cooper, we love Diana Cooper, talks a lot about unicorn energy. Ted Andrews has been another really amazing teacher of mine. He talks a lot about elementals. And unicorn are 12th dimensional beings. They are higher dimensional beings. They don't just exist on Earth, they exist in all of these other planets and dimensions as well. They are pure love, they are pure light, they are pure consciousness. And they come through in my sessions for clients, or when I've done workshops around them, people are called to that when they're really ready to level up, when they're really ready to expand into these greater realms of love. There is a reason that children are so drawn to unicorn, because that is the frequency that they vibrate at, of this pure, innocent, magical inner child energy that is liberation for us, that is who we truly are. So when we are working with unicorn energy, they are reflecting back to us the truth of our source given essence, which is delight, which is magic, which is expansion, which is excitement. And so on the upcoming retreat in Mount Shasta, I knew that there was some kind of elemental being that wanted to come through. In my previous retreats, there's always been an elemental that has revealed itself as wanting to be a focus at that time. And I was like, I wonder who it's going to be in Mount Shasta. I wonder who it's going to be. And as I was looking at some hikes we could do and looking at the landscape, I just knew as soon as I saw the waterfalls that were there, because unicorn love waterfalls, I knew that unicorn energy was calling to me, to us, everyone who is called to this retreat to work with us. At this time, in this space, we're going to be engaging in some offerings, some meditations, some channeling. I think we're going to be also doing some unicorn-based art projects to help our hearts open up to receive those frequencies and see what comes through. And I know there's going to be some tears. I know there's going to be some breakthroughs. And I just know it's going to be really transformative for these beautiful souls in this beautiful place to be receptive and to really honor the frequencies that unicorn have to offer us.
Wow, I'm amazed. As you're saying all of that, like my hairs on my arms are sticking up. Like I have chills. I was the big My Little Pony fanatic when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play with
Mm-hmm.
Barbies. I didn't play with a lot of different things, but I had a little
Mm-hmm.
My Little Pony collection. And then I don't know if you remember these things called Precious Moments, like these little
Mm-hmm.
porcelain. My grandfather would bring some over, and a lot of them were like unicorns. So I love them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then my favorite artist was Jody Bergsma growing up. She
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of unicorn, a lot of mythological artwork, drawings, just beautiful. So that's like my whole childhood is encapsulated right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't
Mm-hmm.
wait. And which brings us, yes, to the Mount Shasta retreat. I'm so excited for this. It's not only in my backyard, but I get to share it with people. I know I may not be there, but I will be holding the energetic bubble for this. But yeah, tell me a little bit more about how you came to choose Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta has been creeping in, I think, for some time. I did my first retreat in 2022, and it was so incredibly transformational. I was blown away at the results that happened and the experiences that people had. And I knew at that point, as I started to think about making retreats a larger part of my business model, that I was being called to specific places on the planet. The other retreats that I've done in Mexico and Ireland, and now two in Sedona, I have very specifically been called to those places as a grid worker, knowing that there are specific frequencies in these places, many sacred sites that I, as a spiritual leader, am being invited to bring people to create vortexes of healing energy that will not only benefit them, but also then be sent out through the rest of the world. And specifically this past year, as I was gearing up for the second retreat in Sedona, Mount Shasta really started to come through in my consciousness. It's interesting to note that my mother, who I'm very close to, before I was born, actually had some really powerful experiences in Mount Shasta herself. I think that there is some genetic stuff coming through for me as well. And then while I was in Sedona having this incredible retreat, I knew, I absolutely knew 100% I had to go to Mount Shasta. That was going to be the next one that I planned. And knowing there was an energetic line that moved through both places, it made a lot of sense to me. And then we connected, and you were the one who told me Sedona is really seen as a place where energy is breaking down, where new things are being revealed. And then Mount Shasta is all about refinement. And as soon as you said that to me in our initial meeting, it just
Mm.
went bam,
I
yes.
said that.
You did. You did. And I know that these retreats are for me personally as much as they are for other people and the people who are coming to this retreat. And so I often I'll get these nudges. I'll commit to something without entirely knowing what I'm creating. And then as things continue to develop, it becomes more and more clear. So as I've been doing my own preparation for this retreat, as I've been talking to more people about it, it's becoming obvious why I'm being called to this place that exists in so many different dimensions, that has so many portals there, that is so inviting and so sacred and so powerful that it feels like it's going to be both gentle and expansive in all of the ways that we need it to be.
Amazing. Yeah, we just talked about it recently with this. I I'm in a co-authored book about Mount Shasta, and we just had ceremony day for the launch day, and we got to talking amongst the authors that Mount Shasta, so much to it. There's so many, yeah, different like levels to like what it is that she is. But the point that we started talking about was like how like it's a very much of a maternal, nurturing energy, and it
Mm.
honestly more so than a lot of other places I've visited and lived. I lived in Sedona. I've been to Uluru and other like hot spots around the world. Not all of them, but I have retreats for all of those too. But really, it's one of the most nurturing places. It brings to you
Mhm.
exactly what you need. And whether
Mhm.
that's a mother wound or opening our hearts to be a more of a mother of our family, of our friends, of the world, but it's just a very like healing place for that feminine. She's a very feminine mountain in like a very
Mhm.
divine feminine way. And I love that that seems to be like a mirror of who you already are, and then you bringing your people here. Like I just can't wait to see what kind of transformations you and your group can have just being in this and getting the activations from the land.
I am just counting down the days. I'm just counting down the days. And I posted something on Instagram this week, which you commented on about how in my working with Lemurian energy in preparation for this retreat, I've been so surprised at this deep sense of safety that I've been experiencing in my body. And someone else who lives in the area had commented something similarly, like that's really what she does. And I think all of my retreats build on the last one. And going to San Miguel de Allende in March of this year, there was so much of the feminine. We were working so much with Mother Mary, who's a very important guide that I work with. And it feels like this is really taking me and us to that next level of receiving that maternal energy. And so many of us have mother wounds. No matter what your relationship was with your mother or your mother figure, there is something within us that is being asked to receive even more of this love, of this unconditional love from Gaia, from the cosmos, in order for us to feel safer in these human bodies, in this human experience. And it's only when you feel that degree of security that you can really deliberately create like we are designed to do. I think that this, I'm so glad that you shared all that. I think that this retreat is going to set all of us up for a really powerful rest of the year and also rest of our lives.
What an activation.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful gift. Like so many, and men do too, but so many women just need that like self honoring, mother honoring, like mothering themselves, reparenting themselves in whatever way that's needed. Like such necessary work.
Yeah, it's the only way. It's the only way to take our power back. It's the only way to heal our inner child. It's the only way to set those parental figures free, to know that we have the ability to be that mother energy, that father energy for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we are invited to do that with the help of Gaia and as many other dimensions as we would like. That's where true inner healing and freedom comes from.
Mm-hmm. So I recently have been geeking out on Telos and Lemurian stuff. Admittedly, I've been here for going on almost 5 years now, and it's always been a question mark to me what it is, whether or not it exists. Like I've had some unusual experiences. Looking back, I've had experiences with Telos, not knowing all the different places I was being called to. But it's really been recently, like meeting these other authors and diving more and more in last year into the spiritual community here. Telos is profound. And I knew I was part of the Lemurian line. I've always known that. Like, growing up with my dad, he was very metaphysical, learned a lot about Atlantis. But as soon as I heard about Lemuria, I'm like, okay, that's something, being activated when I hear that. And so I really had a very visceral reaction in response to that Instagram post that you mentioned. And I'd like to dive into that a little bit. It's like most people do know about Atlantis and the fall and all of that, but Lemuria and how like you were part of the Atlantean line, but then you mentioned in this post that you were here to guide Lemurian souls back to integration. Um, I just want to geek out for a minute on what you meant by that and hear a
Mhm.
little bit more about that because I had a very like emotional response to that.
Lemuria also called MU, existed in the South Pacific even before Atlantis, and there was some overlap of the two places, and Lemuria, for a variety of reasons, including larger animals that were walking the planet and Atlantean interactions, they started to separate, to become more isolated. But it was really, to my understanding, a utopian existence where people were allowed to pursue their passions in the way that they would like. They lived very closely to the land. Everybody's needs were met. People were very intuitive. They communicated telepathically, and it was really peaceful and idyllic. What I've tuned into for myself is that during this catastrophe that happened, this fall of Atlantis, where the earth was shaken, there were these dramatic changes in the tectonic plates due to exploration of technology by Atlanteans, which is my understanding. And what has come through to me is that I was present during that time. Many people knew this destruction was coming and they were prepared for it. They were preparing to send people out to different parts of the planet to be prepared for the time we're living now, to allow these frequencies to again be remembered, to allow this sense of unity consciousness, essentially, among other things, to come back online for humanity, for the souls that wanted to exist on the planet at this time. And so I was an Atlantean being who was also working with Lemurians, is my understanding. And there was a plan to, in working with both parties, to bring as many souls as possible. And for me, there was like a specific school or temple where there were many different beings existing, training to bring them to a safe place. And that was Agartha, which is inner Earth, as Earth is a star and Earth has its own star beings and has for a very long time. And so it's been interesting for me to observe this really ancient lifetime I had, where there was a desire to keep the peace, to bring people together, to bring people who some understood each other, some didn't, to bring them together in order for a greater good. And that was actually not as successful. That mission was not as successful as we had wanted it to. Things did not go as planned, and were not able to bring as many beings as possible to this safe place. And pain is something my soul has continued to do healing around. That disappointment, some self-punishment programs have resulted from that. But now I can understand that as pain does, as grief does, it expands us. And that we also know all souls have their own karma, their own path, their own lessons to learn, and there's nothing we can really do to change that or shape that. But now in this lifetime, this sense of connecting with Lemuria and Agarthans brings me such peace in my body. And it has also allowed me, and this is coming up for the first time as I'm connecting with them now in this new way, bringing deeper levels of self-forgiveness for things that I somewhat understand, but don't entirely understand. And I don't need to. And that's okay. But as I am letting in these loving beings, I am able to be more gentle with myself.
What's interesting that you speak to that, because there is part of the legend that the souls that were alive at the time of the fall of Atlantis and Lemuria, that we specifically have been called and reincarnated to be in this lifetime to redo and have a second chance to reestablish that Eden again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that you're tapping into self-forgiveness, because that's going to be part of what moves us forward into doing this and getting to that place.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And it's so interesting when I'll be in sessions with people and we'll have a lifetime that comes up around this fall and how deeply people feel it in their bodies.
Mhm.
And they don't consciously remember it, but I'll be channeling and we'll be talking through and they'll just start to cry or they'll just have sensations in their body because that was such a major event, not just for Earth, but for the solar system and the entire multiverse that changed everything. That it was the beginning of a cycle that we are completing now. So everything that you're sharing makes absolute sense.
And for anyone who's curious, like a really quick Atlantis check, my godfather was a very spiritual person. And he said that on your right palm, if the lines, like through the different, like heart line, headline, lifeline, if they make an M on your right palm, then you were the part of Atlantis. And if it didn't, then you were part of Lemuria. So I'm like a little 7, 8 year old kid, like, oh, what is this? And all this stuff. And I have a tiny bit, like I could have been Atlantean too, in even a different lifetime, but it's not as prominent as what he was showing. That's just part of how I know I was Lemurian too. And then just being able to connect with all that. But yeah, anyone wants to do a quick check, and then if they want to find out more, contact Faith for a past life healing and regression to really explore this, because
Mm-hmm.
truly believe that we are here to herald a brand new golden age, even more than it was even back then. Do think it's possible. I think there's a lot going on in the world that we're seeing right now that's scary, that's shifting, but it's because old systems need to fall away before the larger one and the 5D, 12D, all the different dimensional blueprints for what this earth can be, has been, and needs to be again, needs to rise up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I feel very, I feel very optimistic about where humanity is heading. I don't know what we will see in our lifetimes, but I know that the awakening is happening and I know progress is happening and it's not going to slow down. It's not going to slow down.
Never has. And it's the
No.
undercurrent of everything that's going on right
Yeah. Yeah.
now. Okay, so if anyone wants to learn more about your Mount Shasta retreat, you're almost fully sold out. We do have about 4 or 5 more spots
Mhm.
left.
Yeah.
Super exciting. But who would you like to call in for those last remaining spots?
I would like to call in any mystical seekers who are looking to create new baselines for their lives, who are looking to spend time with really loving, authentic, interesting spiritual people who have felt alone on their spiritual journeys and are really eager to upgrade. I'm calling in people who have a desire to experience more pleasure in their lives, who feel like they don't quite know how to slow themselves down and they need a little bit of guidance on how to do that, and to drop you into experience like this where you're going to be fully held, fully taken care of. You're going to have that very visceral experience of how you want to live your life moving forward. People who have started to get some downloads but don't quite know how to interpret them. Maybe there's still some fear around opening up their psychic abilities. And this experience is really going to make you comfortable and excited to see what else is revealed for you. People who have some experience with deliberate creation, but it doesn't feel consistent for them and they don't quite know why. We are going to dig into those subconscious beliefs and really let them go so that we can feel like the joyful, loving, creative, and abundant beings that we are here to be.
Absolutely. Oh, that sounds so amazing. And what do you, whether through your other retreats or this one in particular, is anything coming through for how you're going to be able to give them integration insights and tools and resources on how to carry that forward? Like, establish the baseline, then maybe it's your community, or like how can people continue to tap into that?
hmm We are definitely going to talk about some practical tools at the retreat, really tangible, accessible things that people can fit into their daily lives once they return home. They will be invited to join my communities as well. And I will be offering an additional program, a one-on-one program that people can work with me after the retreat to continue that integration in an even deeper way. So that will also be available.
Beautiful. That sounds so lovely all around. And Mount Shasta, there's going to be some waterfall hikes involved.
Hmm.
definitely the retreat center that you chose has these like sweeping views of Mount Shasta. So it's the land itself has been activated so much with Mother Mary and the Magdalene and this grandmother, like the Ascended Master. And I'm just really excited for
Yeah.
you, for the whole thing. Yeah. Any Okay, so what I'd like to ask as the last part of this, because my show is called Creating New Realities. We've talked, I think, a lot about that already, but I would like to hear in an encapsulated way, what do you see as the highest potential for humanity that we can co-create in our current paradigm?
What a beautiful question. And what comes to me is the word manifestation is overused. People are getting really tired of it, and it makes sense because it triggers feelings of selfishness, right? That I want this thing. I want this thing and I'm going to do what I can to attract this thing. And that's the first level of manifestation, deliberate creation. But the next level, and what we are leading ourselves to, is creating solutions in community and being able to understand that when we come together and when we collectively focus on solutions, then the sky isn't even the limit. And that also comes from doing the work to know what our individual medicine is, to know what our authentic self is, and how we are eager and excited and can't wait to show up for our communities and for our families, while also being able to take that time for ourselves. I see a time when we are coming together, when we are joining together as different cultures still do and have done throughout humanity, but we in the Western world have really forgotten that, as we have systematically been isolated, been told what we want, been told what to desire. And we are remembering how good it feels to join our forces together in joy, in gratitude. And as we are learning how to create our lives on an individual level, doing that collectively is when the major shifts happen on this planet.
Goosebumps. Yeah, how powerful.
Yeah.
Faith, it's been an honor to have you on the show. I'm so excited to talk to you about all of these things. I start to feel like my brain start expanding and like my psyche expanding every single time I talk to you. So it's been lovely. Thank you. For anyone listening, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
I am very active on Instagram. My handle is at Faith Streng, and also my website, which is faithstrenghealing.com.
I honor you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. You're so bright. You're so bright. It's a joy to co create with you.